Welcome back to another edition of Just Facts Quick Picks. This time, we're breaking down a UFC Fight Night card headlined by Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues. Kicking off the event, we have Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti, and my pick? I'm leaning toward Cavalcanti. Avila is getting up there in age and has been highly inactive, fighting just twice since 2021, with nearly 2 years between each bout. Her last fight was also a year and a half ago, which makes this a tough comeback spot. I expect Cavalcanti to outmaneuver her on the feet, keeping her at range and picking her apart. Avila has a chance in the clinch, where Cavalcanti has shown vulnerabilities, and if she can secure a takedown, she could pose problems. However, Avila's wrestling isn't strong. She has just a 33% takedown accuracy and struggled to get back up against Miesha Tate, who dominated her on the mat. I believe Cavalcanti will do enough to keep this fight standing, using the fence to defend takedowns like body locks and back takes. Avila has power but lacks setups and tends to be flat-footed, making it unlikely she lands anything significant. My official pick is Jacqueline Cavalcanti by decision. A TKO could be in play if Avila's chin doesn't hold up, but given her toughness and Cavalcanti's point fighting style, I see this going the distance. Final prediction: Jacqueline Cavalcanti to win. Very winnable fight for Don'Tale Mayes. In terms of striking, he is significantly better than Valter Walker, who fights as if he can't be hurt, chin high, hands down, and often throwing strikes out of desperation. When forced to engage, Walker either recklessly rushes forward to clinch or throws a looping hook just to create space before charging in for a takedown. These defensive flaws make him highly vulnerable to counters, and if Mayes stands his ground, he could easily knock Walker out. A Mayes KO wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. However, despite these weaknesses, I'm still picking Valter Walker to win. The main reason? Mayes' defensive grappling. He struggles to defend well-timed takedowns and often accepts bottom position rather than actively working to escape. We saw this against Gaziev, where Mayes even assisted in his own takedown by trying to counter-wrestle in the wrong direction. If he repeats these mistakes, Walker will have no trouble securing takedowns and controlling him. Walker doesn't necessarily need the fence to take Mayes down, which is crucial. Mayes relied on the cage to get back up against Nascimento, but Nascimento is a grappler with limited wrestling skills. Walker, on the other hand, left Brazil to train wrestling in Russia, and the difference in his technique shows. He applies more variation in his takedowns, making it likely that he takes Mayes down in open space, where Mayes tends to struggle even more. That said, Walker's cardio is a major liability. As he tires, he becomes a slow-moving target, desperately shooting for takedowns with little setup. If Mayes can repeatedly get back to his feet, he'll have clear opportunities to capitalize and potentially score a knockout. The problem? Mayes doesn't consistently fight to stand up, especially if taken down away from the cage. If Walker secures top control, he will do everything in his power to keep Mayes pinned, either riding out the round or finding a submission. For that reason, my official pick is Valter Walker by submission or decision in what will likely be a slow-paced, grinding heavyweight fight. However, I'll keep an eye on a Mayes TKO or decision prop, as his path to victory is there if he can stay on his feet long enough to land a clean shot. Final prediction: Valter Walker to win. This is a tough test for the young Elijah Smith, as he faces a seasoned vet in Vince Morales, who remains in his prime. Morales is a gritty fighter who will battle until the final bell, but despite his experience, I'm leaning toward Smith to get the job done. Morales is naturally a low-volume striker who prefers to stay on the outside, engaging only when necessary. If his opponent isn't throwing much, he won't either. This works in Smith's favor, as he'll be the one pressing forward, looking to close the distance and set up takedowns. While Morales has shown some improvements in his game, I wouldn't be surprised if Smith struggles to secure a takedown immediately. However, Morales' tendency to fight at range should give Smith the space he needs to set up his wrestling while staying aggressive and in Morales' face. Smith did show some cardio issues late in his last fight, but that was against an aggressive opponent who constantly pressured him. Morales doesn't fight that way, so in a slower-paced bout, Smith won't have to burn as much energy. Final prediction: Elijah Smith by decision. He has fast hands and solid power, so a TKO isn't out of the question if he catches Morales in the pocket, but I'm leaning toward another decision win for him. Next up, we have Bonfim versus Chaos Williams, and I'm siding with Bonfim to get the job done. If you haven't seen Williams fight, his name says it all. He brings pure chaos, wielding serious power that can end the night for anyone who isn't careful. He throws wild, heavy shots, knowing that if he lands clean, it's game over. However, we've seen a more composed version of Williams lately. He's placing his strikes better, timing them more effectively, and being more selective with his output. This evolution makes him even more dangerous, as we saw in his last fight when he floored Carlston Harris. Bonfim, on the other hand, learned a hard lesson after being dominated by Nicolas Dalby. He now fights smarter, uses his height and reach better, and no longer assumes he can finish everyone in a round. Williams tends to struggle against opponents who keep him at range, often overextending and resorting to wild hooks to close the distance. I expect him to start measured, but once Bonfim starts chipping away, frustration may creep in, leading Williams to revert to his old habits. That said, Williams will test Bonfim, and I wouldn't be shocked if Bonfim's questionable cardio starts to fade, creating an opening for Williams to land something big. Still, I believe Bonfim will stay composed, pick Williams apart, and edge out a decision win. Final prediction: Gabriel Bonfim by decision. Rafael Estevam is one of those rare wrestler-grapplers who is actually exciting to watch. He relentlessly chases finishes while maintaining a smart, aggressive approach. From the opening bell, he executes his game plan, working kicks at range to break down his opponent's midsection before closing the distance for takedowns. Even when shooting from far out, he always has a follow-up plan, either securing the takedown or maintaining control. He's facing Jesus Aguilar, who is also aggressive but far less calculated. Aguilar often leaves himself open, getting countered or taken down due to poor decision-making. This makes Estevam a nightmare matchup for him. Both are grapplers, but Estevam is clearly superior, especially in wrestling, a common weakness for many South American fighters. However, Estevam stands out as one of the few who is well-rounded and tactical, rather than just fighting on pure aggression. Compared to Charles Johnson, Aguilar's takedown defense is nowhere near as good. He was ragdolled by Mendoza and arguably gifted a robbery win simply because the fight took place in Mexico, a region notorious for hometown decisions. I expect Estevam to dominate Aguilar, and a submission in the second or third round wouldn't surprise me, especially if Aguilar fights recklessly, as he often does. Estevam also has a significant height and reach advantage, which will help him pick apart Aguilar at range before forcing grappling exchanges. A decision is also possible, as Aguilar is tough, but he's not hard to beat. Final prediction: Rafael Estevam by submission, round 2 or 3. A clash of powerhouses, youth versus experience, that will answer key questions about both fighters. Souza has looked impressive so far and now gets a true step-up test against veteran Angela Hill, who presents challenges everywhere. In many ways, Hill feels like an older version of Souza. Both use strength to pressure opponents, both have questionable defense, and both mix in grappling more to control pace than as a true offensive weapon. Souza has clear wrestling deficiencies, often using grappling techniques to defend rather than proper wrestling, which nearly cost her against man. Hill has had her own struggles but has improved significantly, now utilizing wrestling when it makes sense. In a way, she's a more seasoned version of Souza with the experience to back it up. That said, Souza is a dangerous young prospect with legit power, solid boxing, and BJJ skills, but she has holes that Hill can exploit. If she can't hurt Hill early, she risks getting outboxed or even hurt herself. While Souza has the power to finish an aging Hill, I believe Hill still has enough left in the tank. If she weathers the early storm, she'll take over in the later rounds, proving she's still a level above Souza. My pick is Angela Hill by decision, unanimous or split. A finish could happen if either fighter lands clean, but Hill's experience should carry her to victory. Final prediction: Angela Hill to win. The UFC knew exactly what they were doing when they put this car crash of a fight together. Both fighters are aggressive, pressure-heavy, and come forward by default, so expect plenty of back-and-forth action. They're also both strong kickers, meaning we'll likely see full MMA warfare, including some wrestling, as they'll probably need it to slow each other down. This will be a high-paced, violent fight, and in that kind of war, I actually favor Jose Delgado. The biggest reason? Matthews' defense is nearly non-existent. He's far too easy to hit and constantly looks to trade in the pocket, making him a walking target for well-timed shots. While Delgado can be reckless, his aggression is effective, and against someone as hittable as Matthews, I see him having great success, possibly securing a finish. That said, Matthews carries respectable power and could absolutely put Delgado out as well. Both are defensively flawed but dangerous, so a knockout wouldn't be shocking. However, I see Delgado catching Matthews as he charges in, possibly with a knee or an up-the-middle strike, hurting him before finishing the job. I expect this to happen in round 1 or 2, as once they make their reads, the bombs will start flying. If Matthews can show more discipline and improve his defense, the fight could be closer than expected. His experience fighting longer fights may also help in a grueling third round, but I believe Delgado's aggression will overwhelm him, leading to a TKO or decision victory. Final prediction: Jose Delgado to win, TKO or decision. Petroski might as well be fighting his Brazilian twin when it comes to style. Both excel in similar areas, except for one key difference: wrestling. Petroski is the superior wrestler, while Rodolfo Vieira is the far better grappler. On the feet, both have knockout power but are fairly average strikers. However, one major difference is that Petroski is much more comfortable striking and has better cardio in stand-up exchanges, whereas Vieira has only recently started striking more to improve in this area. I expect Petroski to keep this fight standing, as engaging in grappling exchanges with Vieira would be extremely risky. Vieira, on the other hand, will likely strike just enough to set up takedowns. However, I see Petroski keeping things simple, using his clear edge on the feet, and looking to knock out an uncomfortable Vieira. That said, Vieira has improved his striking and won't be as lost on the feet as he once was. Even so, Petroski can turn this into a dogfight, forcing Vieira into the uncomfortable exchanges that have drained him in past fights. I could see Vieira getting desperate, shooting poorly timed takedowns, and walking into a fight-ending power shot. Both men have questionable cardio, but Petroski has more tools to manage his gas tank. If he avoids grappling and keeps it standing, I see him stopping Vieira within 2 rounds. That said, if Petroski gets reckless, Vieira could capitalize with a takedown and secure a submission. Petroski has escaped bad positions before, but against Vieira, any mistake on the ground could mean a quick finish. If Vieira stays patient, he might also find opportunities to hurt a fatigued Petroski late. Still, I see Petroski controlling the pace, keeping the pressure on Vieira, and ultimately stopping him or winning on the scorecards. Final prediction: Andre Petroski by TKO or decision. A finish is highly likely in this fight, with 2 heavy-handed powerhouses going head-to-head. Both are high-level grapplers, but I believe Nazim Sadykhov's offensive wrestling is stronger than Ismael Bonfim's. However, Sadykhov has clear weaknesses in his defensive wrestling, often getting taken down and controlled. I see Bonfim exploiting this, likely securing takedowns off counters when Sadykhov crashes into range without proper setups. Bonfim will likely fight off the back foot, drawing Sadykhov in and looking to counter. That said, Sadykhov has a real shot at winning if he catches Bonfim in the pocket. Both leave their chins exposed, but Bonfim tends to throw wild, looping shots in brawls, which could open him up for a counter or even a high kick. Between the two, Bonfim is the cleaner, more technical striker, and I expect him to pick Sadykhov apart before landing a fight-ending shot, likely in the 2nd or 3rd round. If it goes the distance, Bonfim should still get the nod on the scorecards. However, given the fight's dynamic, a Bonfim TKO prop is worth considering. Final prediction: Ismael Bonfim to win. If any fight is guaranteed to end in a finish, it's this one. Both fighters push for stoppages, but that aggression often leaves them exposed, leading to their own defeats. The UFC matched them well, as they're at similar stages in their careers, but Edmen is in a better position and should win this fight. Budka is fighting for his job after 2 straight losses, which adds pressure, but his biggest weakness, grappling, was exposed against Azamat Bekoev. Meanwhile, Edmen has strong wrestling and grappling, and he's been fighting smarter lately, using all his strengths rather than just relying on his power. The UFC may have booked this hoping Budka could drag him into a brawl, but I think Edmen has learned from past mistakes. Instead of engaging in unnecessary scraps, he'll fight strategically, using his full skill set. I expect Edmen to take Budka down and dominate the transitions, possibly securing a finish or at least controlling him for a decisive win. Final prediction: Edmen to win. Kattar looked decent in his last fight, but Sterling was able to overwhelm him and secure a takedown, no easy feat, given Kattar's solid takedown defense. Kattar also seemed a bit flat, likely due to the 2-year layoff from his knee injury against Allen. Even after shaking off some rust in the Sterling fight, I think Kattar faces a tough challenge here. He's up against Youssef Zalal, who has shown significant improvement in every fight. Zalal now fights with a clear purpose and plan, which is evident in his game. He's finished his last 4 opponents, all credible ones, and now faces an older Kattar who's just starting to regain his rhythm. On the feet, Zalal can match Kattar's striking power and has the tools to be successful. Kattar's boxing will pose problems, but Zalal can mix it up with his kicks, Muay Thai, and make it a well-rounded MMA fight. Kattar, while skilled, tends to rely on his boxing and striking power, and his once-iron chin is showing signs of wear. Given Zalal's respectable punching power, I wouldn't be surprised if he scores a knockout. That said, Kattar will make it tough, so I'm leaning towards Zalal by decision. However, the possibility of a Zalal TKO is real, so it's worth keeping an eye on that prop bet. This is another point-to-prove fight, with Cannonier coming off a decision loss to Caio Baralho, where he was nearly finished in the final round after being rocked badly. On the other hand, Gregory Rodrigues has won 3 straight since his surprising first-round knockout loss to Bruno Ferreira. Both fighters have something to prove here. Cannonier wants to show he's still a top contender, while Rodrigues is aiming to prove he's top 10 worthy. I'm leaning towards the younger Rodrigues, though I'm not fully confident. Rodrigues has never fought 5 hard rounds, especially against someone as tough as Cannonier. However, what we've seen from Cannonier is a steady decline in his best attributes. His toughness and chin are showing cracks, and his striking power seems diminished. While both fighters are tough and hit hard, Rodrigues is coming into his prime, and I believe he can take advantage of Cannonier's decline. I see Rodrigues pushing Cannonier back while maintaining a safe range, gradually breaking him down. He'll need to be cautious not to overexert himself, as Cannonier will make him work. Both fighters rely on range and have low hands in the pocket, relying on toughness for defense. But with Cannonier's power fading and Rodrigues' skills coming together, I believe Rodrigues will control the pace. His boxing looked exceptional in his last fight, and I think he'll do the same against Cannonier. Cannonier tends to wait too much for counter opportunities, absorbing damage in the process. This could cost him the fight, and possibly even lead to a finish. Against Imavov, he used wrestling to neutralize aggression but was hurt when Imavov created space and landed heavy shots. While that fight ended controversially, I think Rodrigues will hurt Cannonier enough that the referee will step in to stop the fight in the later rounds, possibly rounds 3 or 4. However, Rodrigues has no experience beyond 3 rounds, so there's a chance he could slow down, leading to a decision win. But based on his style and the opportunities available, I wouldn't be shocked if Rodrigues goes for an early finish, aiming to avoid going the distance. If Rodrigues does slow down or gets hurt, like he did against Chidi Bang Bang, Cannonier could capitalize and score a statement win. But I feel Rodrigues has everything needed to get past a fading Cannonier: skills, experience, and style. This should be an exciting fight, and with the way both fight, a finish is highly likely.